Pastor Q?
What's happening? I see I'm looking
So,
dark.
yeah, you are on, huh? So we're gonna kind of ask you, I didn't realize how long I was running my mouth, but if you could, so Pastor Q Jean-Marie, I forgot your whole name, I don't think in real life, is a pastor, a community organizer, my brother from another mother, who I normally see very regularly, and I have not seen you in. So it's wonderful to see your face. And we're going
That's
to
what it is.
just
Barely,
talk a
you can
little
barely
bit,
see my face.
barely see your face, but I know you're there.
Yeah,
I know you're there.
right.
I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what's in Los Angeles, but also some of the work that you and Pete and others are doing in um, kind of fulfilling the needs that government. I see this as a practice in Black autonomy. Can you talk a little bit about both what's happening, but also this kind of calling that you've received around Black autonomy, fighting for ourselves?
Yes, we know. I mean, I heard a definition of autonomy as self-governance. Basically, how many elements of your reality are you governing? And during this
Mm-hmm.
COVID-19 situation, we were propelled into that because the first thing the governor said was, we've got over 100,000 hotel rooms. We got 60,000 houseless people. We know that 40% of the houseless population in Los Angeles are Black folks, being only about 8% of the population as a whole. We know that at least 65% of the people who are houseless in Skid Row are Black folks. So Skid Row is a Black community that's never called a Black community, right? And so once COVID hit, we noticed that the folks in Skid Row were being ignored. So the mayor put out over, I guess they said 200 hand washing stations. LA Can, our community partner, did an investigation, and we found out that within 24 hours, the hand washing stations were out of supplies. It was out of water, out of soap. So here's a situation where folks are and social distancing. And so basically what they did was they left the people there to die, right? And we've been
Mm-hmm.
fighting for so long regarding housing for folks, and COVID-19 actually exposed for them. This is stuff we already know. We've been woke, right? But it's exposed to them why housing for each individual is a human right, why people need housing, right? Because in the LA mission or mission, someone, and social
Okay, we're back.
distancing. Yeah, people are
Mm-hmm.
walking around in the community without social distancing. They weren't wearing masks. So the Church Without Walls and LA Can, we hit the ground. LA Can started building hand washing stations, and we started, like you said, handling our own situation. Because if it wasn't for us, and we have a lower, for a long time, for the first 4 weeks, we weren't having many cases in Skid Row. But of course, we know folks in Skid Row were not getting tested, right? Donald Trump can get tested, but we're not getting tested. And when they didn't contact community organizations to really talk to us about how to get folks tested. And so this bill to invest in the systems, European system, in the colonial systems, we've got to actually begin to build our own systems to take care of our own people. Because if we don't, folks are going to die. It is only because of LA CAN and the Church Without Walls and organizations like that, that folks in Skid Row are walking around with masks, that folks are washing their hands, and we're actually walking them through the process, person to person. It is only because of all that work we've been doing on our own, because we're really concerned about our folks, because it's us who are on these streets, right? It's a Black community. So we decided to start feeding people. We were feeding people on Fridays at our church, but started partnering with LA CAN. We started feeding people on Sundays, feeding people on Wednesday at Wellness Wednesday. LA CAN has a rooftop garden. So we're really beginning to ourselves, not just as it relates to policies. We are doing it from every aspect. We've got the getting ready to launch, just got a grant and getting ready to launch the hip hop smoothie shop so we can create jobs and business opportunities, entrepreneurship. We've got to do all of that. We need an alternative to capitalism. We don't need Black capitalism, but we need an alternative to capitalism, right? So we've got to create our own systems. We got to reach out to our ancestors, reach into our ancestral toolbox and take care of ourselves. Because the reason we're in the conditions we're in is because of the system. Do you believe that the system that we have will ever give justice to Black folks? Do you believe police will ever stop killing Black folks? I don't think so. As long as we're under this system, and my brother from Jamaica had it right, when he tried to get our people back to Africa, right? He had it right when he tried to get our people back to Africa, but it was somewhat successful, but
I know when we
unsuccessful,
talk
because we
like that,
realized this a long time ago.
right? And I know when we talk like that, people go back to Africa. I've never been to Africa. Right. And some of us might want to move back to the continent. Some of us might not. Some of us might try to
Mm-hmm.
find spaces like what's building in Jackson, Mississippi. And some might say, I've lived in Los Angeles my
Mm-hmm.
whole life. We can build Black autonomy wherever we are, right, to differing degrees. And I think what you're
Absolutely.
lifting up is Black autonomy means absolutely demanding our fair share from government, but also recognizing that
That's
white
right.
supremacy has never given us anything. We might win
Right.
demands from time to time, but we have to create structures where we have a degree of independence and power over our own
That's
destiny.
right. And as a pastor,
Um,
it means a lot to me, because we hear all the time that God freed his people and took his people away from their oppressors. Well, African Americans have never been taken away from their oppressors. So the oppressor never stopped oppressing,
right.
because in order for the oppressor to stop oppressing you, you have to be totally away from the oppressor. And since you can't get away from the oppressor, you have to build Black autonomy.
Ashe, Ashe. Pastor Q, I'm going to transition you off. We got to transition Sister Rosa Clemente on, but I'm hoping you can hang out in the comments and
Right on.
maybe in the comments put up links so people, if they want to come help with what's happening on Skid Row, or if they want to donate to what's happening on Skid Row, they can do that. Thank you so much for coming
Right
on,
on.
Pastor Q. Love you.